The measure of a man, it was barely past 7 a.m. when First Officer Julian Vance stepped into Terminal B at Miami International Airport. His boots echoed on the marble floor, uniform spotless, movements precise. People noticed him, not because he demanded attention, but because purpose radiated from him. After a night's rest from deployment, he was headed to the Naval Air Station in Pensacola. At Gate B-44, the Atlantic Star Airways sign glowed above the counter. Behind it stood Eleanor Sterling, tall, sharp-shouldered, hair in a tight bun, blazer button-high. At 41, she ruled her crew with military precision, though irony lingered in her disdain for anything military. She spotted Julian instantly. Her eyes flicked to his insignia, then his Coast Guard wings. Her jaw tightened. "Morning, ma'am," he greeted. "Pilot's case?" she asked flatly. "Yes, ma'am. Just my small backpack. It'll go overhead only if there's space after paying passengers. Otherwise, under your seat." Julian hesitated but kept calm. "It's standard for active duty personnel. This isn't the Coast Guard," she cut in. "We follow civilian protocol here." A few passengers looked up, sensing friction. Julian nodded once. Understood. He walked past without protest. Eleanor exhaled sharply, muttering, "Always think rules don't apply." The plane filled fast. Business travelers, families, a man clutching a cello case. Julian found his seat, 24A, and watched the tarmac blur through the glass. He'd endured combat zones and sleepless nights, yet the woman's coldness gnawed at him. As the engines roared and the jet lifted, Eleanor passed down the aisle, clipboard in hand. "Seat belt secure?" "Yes, ma'am." She moved on. 40 minutes later, the meal cart rattled through. When she reached him, Julian offered a polite nod. "Would you like a meal?" he asked. "You'll have to wait until the end," she replied curtly. He frowned. "I'm sorry." She turned, eyes burning. "Don't play innocent. You people always expect special treatment." The words landed heavy. Passengers turned, a phone tilted discreetly toward them. "Ma'am," Julian said evenly. "I didn't mean—" "Don't question me, sailor," she snapped. "You think your uniform makes you untouchable." Gasps rippled. Julian stood slightly, voice calm but firm. "You're misunderstanding." Then she struck him. Her palm cracked across his face. The sound froze the cabin. Trays rattled. A toddler cried. Julian didn't move. He simply sat back down, eyes on the clouds beyond the window, humiliation burning like acid under his skin. Eleanor's hand trembled. She said nothing, only turned, pushing the cart forward as whispers spread like wildfire. "Did you get that?" someone whispered. "She hit him." 10 minutes later, the captain was told. He didn't emerge. The co-pilot's voice came over the speaker, flat and distant. "We'll address the incident upon landing." Julian sat still, jaw tight, fingers clasped. Clouds drifted by, silent witnesses. In the galley, Eleanor leaned against the counter, breathing hard. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a worn photograph. A young man in uniform, smiling proud. Same wings on his chest as Julian's. Her brother, Marcus, dead 12 years now. She closed her eyes, shoved the photo back, and straightened her blazer. 5 minutes later, turbulence hit. Lights flickered once, twice. The hum of the engines wavered. Overhead bins creaked. A baby wailed. The captain's voice crackled. "We're experiencing a minor electrical issue. Please fasten your belts." Flight attendants, suspend service. The plane jolted harder. A suitcase burst open, spilling clothes into the aisle. A makeup bag rolled to Julian's boots. He picked it up automatically, but his instinct screamed louder than the turbulence. Something wasn't right. He unbuckled. The man beside him whispered, "Is it safe to stand?" Julian's eyes stayed on the front. "I'll be quick." He rose, steady despite the shaking, using the bins for balance. From the opposite aisle, Eleanor appeared again, pale, shaken, every trace of control stripped away. Passengers stared as she stumbled toward the center. Julian met her halfway. His voice was calm but urgent. "Ma'am, you need to let me into the cockpit." Her lips parted, eyes darting to the locked door ahead. "You can't." "Regulations. Something's wrong with your electrical systems," he said quietly. "I can help." "I said no," she snapped, though her voice trembled. The plane jolted again. A coffee pot crashed to the floor, scalding liquid splattering. People screamed. Julian grabbed a handrail to keep steady. "Eleanor, listen," he said, lowering his tone. "This isn't about authority. If that glitch spreads to hydraulics." She stared at him, torn between pride and fear. The cabin lights dimmed again, a flickering pulse that made faces look ghost-like. From the intercom came static. No words, just the hollow hiss of lost connection. Then silence. "Captain," Eleanor called toward the front. No reply. Julian's voice hardened. "You have to choose now. Pride or lives." Her mouth opened, but before she could answer, the plane dropped, a stomach-wrenching plunge that sent trays flying. Passengers screamed. The oxygen masks dangled above them. Julian caught Eleanor before she hit the floor. The scent of coffee and ozone filled the air. Somewhere in the chaos, a child cried out for her mother. The engine sputtered once, twice. Then, the sound cut. Silence. Julian looked up through the flickering cabin, hands still gripping Eleanor's arm. "Get me into that cockpit," he said again, quieter this time, but the weight in his voice left no room for refusal. Her eyes flicked to his face, the same one she had struck less than an hour ago. The redness on his cheek was fading, but the memory wasn't. "I'm a certified military pilot," Julian said steadily. "C-130s rescue helicopters. I know what electrical failure looks like. If they've lost systems, there's no time to hesitate." He added softly, "They need help. This isn't about us anymore." Eleanor hesitated. Pride clung to her like armor, but it cracked. She stepped aside. Julian nodded once and moved toward the cockpit. Inside, the captain was panicking. "We lost the primary display. Backup's flickering. I don't even know if we're broadcasting." Julian showed his ID. "First Officer Julian Vance, U.S. Coast Guard. You're experiencing cascading electrical failure. Manual bypass now." The captain hesitated, then nodded. Julian slipped into the jump seat, his hands quick and confident. "Approach. What's our vector?" "Savannah Tower cleared runway 09R. Holding other traffic." "We'll bring her down," Julian said. In the cabin, Eleanor stood frozen. Passengers cried softly. Her brother's face appeared in her mind. Marcus, 22, dead in an Air Force crash. "Pilot error," they said. She'd spent a decade blaming the uniform. Julian's voice came through the intercom, calm and firm. "This is First Officer Vance. We've lost multiple systems but are descending manually. Stay calm." Outside, clouds thickened. Rain battered the windows. Inside, emergency lights blinked red along the aisle. Eleanor moved among the passengers, trembling. "That guy's saving our lives," someone murmured. After what she did, she heard all. Gathering courage, she went to the cockpit and knocked. "I need to speak with Officer Vance," she whispered. Julian didn't look back. "Let her in." She entered quietly. The storm roared beyond the windshield. "My brother," she began shakily. "Marcus, Air Force. He died 12 years ago. They said it was pilot error. I blame men like you. And so you punished me," Julian said evenly. "I thought I buried the anger, but it came out in the worst way. You didn't need to know who I was. Just treat me like a person." Tears filled her eyes. "I'm sorry." Julian, still focused, answered softly. "I believe you." Flaps manual. "Landing gear, confirm," ordered. The wheels dropped with a heavy thunk. The runway appeared, slick with rain. The plane hit hard, bounced, and steadied. Screeching brakes. Silence. Then cheers erupted. Crying, applause, pure relief. Julian opened the cockpit door. Passengers clapped and called his name. Eleanor followed quietly behind him. On the wet tarmac, she caught up. "I'll never forget this," she said. "You already tried," he replied gently. "Don't make the same mistake twice." Then he walked into the flashing lights. The man she slapped, the man who saved them all. 2 weeks later, Julian received a letter. "Dear First Officer Vance, I don't expect forgiveness. I just need you to know I see you now. I've lived with anger I didn't understand. You deserved dignity. I took it and you gave me mine back. Thank you. Eleanor Sterling." Julian folded the letter slowly, his fingers lingering. Months later, he stood at a quiet Virginia airfield, thinking about purpose and grace. Sometimes doing your job meant staying steady when others couldn't. That's what saved the plane, and maybe her too. Eleanor had left the airline, now training staff at a small Texas airport. She taught leadership through kindness, not pride. She kept Julian's letter as a reminder that humility begins where blame ends. One November morning, Julian received a package, a note and a small key. "There's an old Cessna 172 near Austin. She hasn't flown in years. Maybe you'll give her sky again." Julian smiled, packed a bag, and left. Sometimes grace is silent. Sometimes forgiveness is letting someone fly again.